The human scout ship jolted violently as an energy surge blasted through its hull, nearly knocking explorer Paul Hunter unconscious. Steadying himself, he checked the sensor readouts and froze, heart pounding. The surge's origin, an uncharted system deep in the galactic core, where no ship had ventured for eons. Driven by an irresistible compulsion, Paul altered course and raced toward the mysterious coordinates. As he dropped out of warp, his jaw dropped in disbelief. An immense armada of warships hung before him, bearing the long-lost insignia of ancient Terra Prime. In that fateful instant, the destiny of the galaxy shifted on its axis. Paul cautiously docked with the nearest vessel, the Prometheus, and boarded with rising excitement and trepidation. On the darkened bridge, he managed to reactivate the central computer core. Suddenly, the ship hummed to life around him as the AI called Janus awakened from its 600,000-year slumber. The AI's purpose was clear: to help humanity reclaim its former glory and break the shackles of Vulcan oppression. But the repercussions of this discovery would be swift and earth-shattering. As the rest of the ancient fleet powered up, the energy surge alerted the Vulcans, sending shockwaves of panic through the Galactic Federation. Power-hungry factions schemed to seize the ships for themselves, while subjugated races dared to hope again, secretly dispatching envoys to the fleet. With the galaxy teetering on a knife's edge, Paul and Janus faced a monumental task: protect the fleet at all costs and light the way for humanity's ascension. The fate of trillions now rested on their shoulders as the mighty ships of Terra Prime, snatched from legend into reality, prepared to unleash a reckoning that would transform the cosmos forever. As the galactic turmoil intensified, Paul Hunter found himself thrust into a web of intrigue and shifting alliances. The message from Ambassador Zoran piqued his interest, a potential ally in the fight to protect humanity's last hope. With Janus keeping watch over the fleet, Paul slipped away to the rendezvous point, a nondescript space station nestled in the heart of neutral territory. The station's dimly lit corridors set Paul on edge as he made his way to the meeting room. Zoran was already waiting, his angular features cast in shadow. "Commander Hunter," he greeted, his voice smooth as silk. "I'm glad you accepted my invitation." Paul took a seat, eyeing the ambassador warily. "You mentioned an alliance. What exactly are you proposing?" Zoran leaned forward, his eyes glinting with ambition. "The Zephyr Confederation has long chafed under Vulcan rule. Your fleet represents an opportunity to level the playing field. We can offer protection, resources, even a safe haven. All we ask in return is access to your technology." Paul considered the offer, weighing the risks against the potential benefits. The ancient warships were powerful, but they couldn't stand alone against the combined might of the Galactic Federation. An ally, even one with ulterior motives, could be invaluable. "I'll need to discuss this with my team," he said finally, "but I'm open to the possibility." As Paul returned to the Prometheus, Janus's voice echoed through the ship's intercom. "Commander, we have a situation. I've detected an unauthorized access attempt in the engineering section." Paul's heart raced as he sprinted through the corridors, his mind spinning with possibilities. Had the Vulcans already made their move? He burst into engineering, his hand on his sidearm, only to find a lone figure hunched over a console. The intruder spun around, and for a moment, Paul could only stare in shock. The man before him was human, or at least appeared to be, but there was something off about him, a subtle wrongness that set Paul's teeth on edge. "Who are you?" he demanded, his voice tight with tension. The intruder smiled, but it didn't reach his eyes. "I am Sarek, a humble engineer seeking knowledge." Janus's voice cut through the air, cold and unyielding. "He's lying, Commander. My scans indicate he's a Vulcan operative, genetically altered to appear human." Paul's grip tightened on his weapon as he stared down the spy. "You have some explaining to do." Light years away on the blue-green world of Earth, Counselor Marcus Avon strode through the halls of power, his heart pounding with anticipation. The ancient fleet was the key to everything he had ever dreamed of, a chance for humanity to take its rightful place among the stars. As he prepared for the diplomatic mission that would shape the future of his species, a chime at the door announced an unexpected visitor. Arya Voss, her eyes alight with a fervor Marcus had never seen before. "Counselor," she said, her voice trembling with excitement, "I need to be on that mission. The fleet, the progenitors, it's all connected. I can feel it in my bones." Marcus hesitated, torn between caution and curiosity. Arya was brilliant, but her theories were often controversial, even borderline heretical. But there was something in her eyes, a conviction that couldn't be denied. "Very well," he said at last. "Welcome aboard, Dr. Voss." As the diplomatic ship hurtled through the stars, racing toward a rendezvous with destiny, Arya pored over the ancient texts and artifacts she had gathered over a lifetime of study. Somewhere, amidst the dust and echoes of the past, lay the key to unlocking the secrets of the fleet. And then a signal, faint but unmistakable, pulsing like a beacon in the void. A progenitor distress call, silent for millennia, now screaming across the cosmos. Arya's heart leapt as she triangulated the source, a system long thought dead and abandoned. She burst onto the bridge, her eyes wide with revelation. "Counselor, we have to divert. The signal, it's a message from the past, from the ones who came before." Marcus stared at the readouts, his mind racing with possibilities. To abandon the mission now could be seen as a dereliction of duty, but the lure of the unknown, the chance to unravel the greatest mystery in human history, it was too much to resist. "Helm," he said, his voice ringing with authority. "Set a new course. We're going to find out what secrets the progenitors left behind." As the ship charted a new path, plunging into the uncharted depths of space, Arya felt a thrill of anticipation mixed with an undercurrent of dread. For she knew, deep in her bones, that what they found at the end of this journey would change everything. The future of the cosmos, of life itself, hung in the balance. And on the bridge of the Prometheus, as Paul faced down the Vulcan spy and the weight of responsibility settled heavy on his shoulders, he couldn't shake the feeling that this was only the beginning. The ancient fleet had awoken, and with it, a storm that would sweep across the stars, reshaping the very fabric of the universe. The fate of trillions now rested on the actions of a few, a human commander, an alien ambassador, a brilliant scientist, and an AI with secrets yet untold. As the forces of the galaxy converged, drawn by the siren song of power and destiny, the stage was set for a confrontation that would echo through the ages. And in the heart of it all, an ancient mystery waiting to be unlocked, a truth that would shatter the foundations of everything they thought they knew. The future was unwritten, the path ahead shrouded in shadow and flame. But one thing was certain, the universe would never be the same again. The hum of the Prometheus's engines thrummed through Paul Hunter's bones as he faced down the Vulcan spy. Sarek's eyes darted between Paul and the console, calculating his odds. "Step away from the terminal," Paul ordered, his voice steady despite the adrenaline coursing through his veins. Sarek's fingers twitched, and in that instant, Paul knew he wouldn't comply. The spy lunged for the console, his hand flying across the controls. Paul fired, the energy blast searing past Sarek's ear and leaving a smoking hole in the bulkhead. "Janus, lock down all communications," Paul shouted as he tackled Sarek to the ground. They grappled on the cold metal floor, each fighting for control. "Communications locked," Janus reported, "but I'm detecting a partial transmission that slipped through before I could isolate the systems." Paul's stomach dropped as he finally subdued Sarek, pressing the Vulcan's face against the deck. What did he manage to send? "Analyzing now," Janus replied. "It appears to be an incomplete set of coordinates and some technical specifications of our fleet." Paul hauled Sarek to his feet, securing the spy's hands behind his back. "Even a partial message could be devastating in Vulcan hands," he muttered. The next hours passed in a blur of activity. Paul interrogated Sarek, gleaning what he could about Vulcan plans and capabilities. With Janus's help, he analyzed the strategic situation, weighing their options. "We can't wait for them to strike first," Paul decided, his heart set strong. "Janus, prepare the fleet for immediate action. We're taking the fight to the Vulcans." The ancient warships of Terra Prime surged to life, their weapon systems powering up after millennia of dormancy. Paul stood on the bridge of the Prometheus, watching as the armada formed up around them. "Target acquired," Janus announced. "Vulcan military installation on Theta Cygni III." Paul took a deep breath, steadying himself for what was to come. Fire! The strike was swift and devastating. Beams of energy lanced out from the human ships, overwhelming the Vulcan defenses in seconds. As reports of their success flooded in, Paul felt a mix of elation and dread. They had bloodied the Vulcan's nose, but the real battle was just beginning. Over the next days, the human fleet struck again and again, targeting key Vulcan military and communication hubs. The Vulcans, caught off guard by the humans' sudden aggression and superior firepower, struggled to mount an effective defense. On Vulcan Prime, Supreme Counselor Valok paced the war room, his usual composure shattered. "How is this possible?" he demanded of his generals. "These humans were barely more than primitives a few centuries ago." "The ships they're using," one general replied, his voice tight with stress, "they're beyond anything we've ever encountered. Our analysts believe they may be of progenitor origin." Valok's eyes widened at the implications. If the humans had truly found progenitor technology, the balance of power in the galaxy could shift irrevocably. He steeled himself for the decision he knew he had to make. "Open a channel to the human fleet," Valok ordered. "It's time we negotiate." As the Vulcans sued for peace, Paul found himself thrust into the unfamiliar role of diplomat. The talks were tense, with centuries of mistrust hanging between the two species. It was during one of these negotiation sessions that Ambassador Zoran of the Zephyr Confederation approached Paul in private. The ambassador's eyes gleamed with a mixture of fear and opportunity. "Commander Hunter," Zoran said, his voice low and urgent, "the galaxy is changing before our eyes. The Zephyr people wish to be on the right side of history." Paul listened as Zoran laid out his proposal, an alliance between the humans and the Zephyrs, with promises of resources, intelligence, and mutual protection. "And in return?" Paul asked, though he already knew the answer. "Access to your technology," Zoran replied without hesitation, "and a guarantee of our autonomy from Vulcan rule." Paul considered the offer, weighing the potential benefits against the risks. With the Vulcans still a threat and unknown dangers lurking in the shadows, allies could make all the difference. "I'll need to discuss this with my advisors," Paul said finally, "but I'm open to the possibility." As Paul returned to the Prometheus to confer with Janus, reports began flooding in from across the galaxy. The human strikes against the Vulcans had ignited a spark of hope in subjugated worlds. Rebellions were erupting on dozens of planets, their people emboldened by the human success. The galaxy teetered on the brink of chaos, with the potential for either a new era of freedom or a descent into all-out war. And as Paul stood on the bridge of the Prometheus, watching the stars wheel past, he couldn't shake the feeling that this was only the beginning of a much larger conflict. In the vast emptiness of space, unbeknownst to the warring factions, something stirred. Ancient and patient, it had waited eons for this moment. As the first massive energy signatures appeared on the fringes of known space, a new chapter in galactic history was about to unfold. The massive energy signatures on the fringes of known space sent shockwaves through the fragile alliance. Paul Hunter stood on the bridge of the Prometheus, his face illuminated by the eerie glow of holographic displays showing the approaching threat. "Janus, what are we looking at?" Paul asked, his voice tight. The AI's response was swift and clinical. "Analysis indicates an extragalactic force of unprecedented scale. Our current defenses are inadequate." Marcus Avon's voice crackled over the comm. "Commander Hunter, we've decrypted more of the progenitor data. There are references to a weapon, something that could turn the tide." Paul's eyes narrowed. "Where?" "That's the problem," Marcus replied. "The clues point to the galactic core." The galactic core, a region of space so dense with stars and radiation that it was practically impenetrable. Paul exchanged a glance with Arya Voss, who had joined him on the bridge. Her eyes gleamed with a mixture of fear and excitement. "It's our only chance," Arya said softly. Within hours, a joint strike force was assembled. Human warships flanked by sleek Vulcan cruisers and the organic-looking vessels of the Zephyr Confederation. At its head, the imposing figure of Admiral Kethis, a Vulcan whose logical exterior barely concealed a core of durasteel. As the fleet approached the galactic core, reality itself seemed to warp and twist. Spatial distortions rippled across view screens, and interdimensional rifts yawned in the void like cosmic wounds. General Braxis, the grizzled Zephyr strategist, proposed a daring plan. "We send recon teams through the rifts, find the weapon before our enemies arrive." Paul volunteered without hesitation, along with Marcus and Aria. The Prometheus, its hull reinforced against the intense radiation, led the charge into the unknown. The transition through the rift was like being turned inside out and reassembled. When Paul's vision cleared, he found himself staring at a sight that defied comprehension. They had emerged into an artificial pocket universe. Vast megastructures floated in the void, their geometry so complex it hurt to look at them directly. And at the center, a towering edifice that pulsed with terrifying power. "That's it," Arya breathed. "The weapon." Before they could act, alarms blared throughout the ship. Janus's voice rang out, tinged with urgency. "Progenitor defense systems activating. They're targeting us." Energy beams lanced out from hidden emplacements, battering the Prometheus's shields. Paul barked orders as the ship dove and weaved, trying to avoid the onslaught. "Kethis, we need backup!" Paul shouted into the comm. The Admiral's response was clipped. "Negative. We're engaged with progenitor defenses on our side of the rift." The Prometheus shuddered as another blast struck home. Sparks showered from ruptured conduits, and the acrid smell of burning circuitry filled the air. In the midst of the chaos, Paul noticed the Vulcan ships breaking formation, angling towards a cluster of smaller progenitor structures. "What are they doing?" Marcus demanded. "Studying the ruins," Arya replied, her voice bitter. "They're prioritizing knowledge over our survival." The Zephyr ships reacted swiftly, interposing themselves between the Vulcans and their objectives. Energy weapons flared as former allies turned on each other. Paul watched in horror as a Zephyr cruiser deliberately maneuvered a human frigate into the path of progenitor fire. The smaller ship disintegrated in a silent explosion. "Janus," Paul said, his voice steady despite the maelstrom around them. "Can you interface with the progenitor systems?" "Attempting now," the AI replied. "Their architecture is complex, but I believe I can convince them we're not the threat they're designed to counteract." 10 seconds stretched into minutes as the battle raged. Then, as suddenly as it had begun, the progenitor weapons fell silent. "I've done it," Janus announced. "We have access to the central complex." Paul wasted no time. "All ships, cease fire and form up. We're going in." The Prometheus limped towards the towering megastructure at the heart of the pocket universe. As they approached, panels slid aside, revealing a cavernous docking bay. Inside, they found a control center beyond their wildest imaginings. Holographic interfaces sprang to life at their approach, displaying readouts in an alien language that somehow felt familiar. Arya's fingers flew over the controls, her eyes wide with wonder. "This is it," she said. "An energy projection array of unimaginable power. The progenitor weapon we've been searching for." Before they could celebrate, a priority alert flashed across every screen. Paul's blood ran cold as he read the translation. "The invaders," he said. "They've entered the galaxy's outer systems." Admiral Kethis' face appeared on a nearby monitor, his usually stoic features marred by barely concealed fear. "Hunter, we must retreat. Our forces are in disarray, and the enemy advances swiftly." Paul looked around at his team, then at the awesome power of the progenitor array before them. He made his decision. "All ships, prepare for immediate withdrawal," he ordered. "We're taking this weapon with us. It's our only hope against what's coming." As the battered alliance fled the artificial pocket universe, the distant stars seemed to dim. Something vast and hungry was devouring the light of the galaxy, and it was headed straight for them. Paul Hunter gripped the edge of the command console as the Prometheus emerged from the rift, leaving behind the shattered remnants of the progenitor megastructure. The view screen flickered to life, revealing a sea of battered ships limping away from the galactic core. Status report, Paul barked, his eyes scanning the tactical displays. Janus's voice rang out, cool and precise. Allied fleet integrity at 62%. Multiple ships reporting critical damage. The progenitor weapon is secured, but integration with our systems is problematic. Arya Voss looked up from her station, her face smeared with grime and sweat. We need to regroup, Commander. There's a remote system nearby, minimal stellar activity, perfect for laying low while we lick our wounds. Paul nodded grimly. Send the coordinates to the fleet. We'll make our stand there. As the ragtag armada limped into the shelter of an ancient red dwarf, the mood aboard the ships was tense. Paul could feel the weight of countless eyes upon him, everyone looking to humanity's unexpected champion for guidance. The uneasy peace lasted mere hours before the first cracks appeared. Unacceptable! Admiral Kethes's voice boomed through the makeshift war room. The Vulcan's usual composure had crumbled, leaving behind raw, terrifying fury. The weapon must be placed under Vulcan control. Our logic and discipline make us the only suitable custodians for such power. General Braxis, the Zephyr commander, smacked his fist on the table. And leave the rest of us at your mercy? I think not. Your logic nearly doomed us all with your hunger for knowledge in the face of annihilation. Paul stepped between them, hands raised. Gentlemen, please, we don't have time for... A priority alert cut through the chaos. Marcus Avon's face appeared on the main screen, his expression grim. Commander, long-range sensors have detected the enemy force. They've entered the galactic interior and... Sir, they're obliterating everything in their path. Entire systems are just... gone. The room fell silent, the petty squabbles forgotten in the face of impending doom. Arya burst into the war room, her eyes wide. Paul, I found something in the progenitor data. It's not good. She pulled up a holographic display, ancient symbols swirling in the air. The weapon, it's more powerful than we imagined. But the progenitors, they destroyed themselves using it. The data suggests a cascading reaction that tore apart reality itself. Paul's mind raced, weighing their options. The Allied fleet was in shambles, torn by mistrust and fear. And now, the very weapon they'd hoped would save them carried the seeds of their own destruction. He took a deep breath, squaring his shoulders. Janus, can you safely interface with the progenitor weapon? The AI's response was measured. With difficulty, yes, but the risks are significant. Paul nodded, decision made. Then that's what we'll do. We don't have time for politics or fear. Humanity will shoulder this burden. He turned to the assembled leaders, his voice firm. We'll draw the enemy into the galactic core. Use the weapon there, where the damage can be contained. But first, we evacuate every inhabited world in the potential blast radius. For a moment, silence reigned. Then, slowly, heads began to nod. Even Kethes and Braxis, their earlier animosity forgotten, murmured their assent. As the fleet sprang into frenzied action, Paul retreated to the Prometheus's bridge. He stared out at the stars, each point of light representing countless lives now depending on their risky move. Janus, he said softly, begin the interface. We've got a galaxy to save. The ancient warship hummed to life around him, progenitor technology meshing with human ingenuity. As evacuation orders flooded across subspace and the first refugee ships streaked past the viewports, Paul allowed himself a moment of grim satisfaction. Humanity, once dismissed as primitive upstarts, now stood as the galaxy's last, best hope. Whatever the cost, they would not go quietly into the night.
You have reached the end of the story. If you enjoyed this story and want to support us, please leave a like and subscribe to our channel, and for every comment that says 88, I will heart every single one of them. Thank you for your time.